Okay, well, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Name's Alan Wang with Keller, Santa Clara Valley, here to teach a class here on new home construction. And when I say new home construction, I'm not necessarily talking about building a house from the ground up per se as a developer. When I say new home construction, I'm talking about working with some of the major home builders in the area around here, such as Pulte Homes, KB Homes, Summerhill, Lennar, Shea, Toll Brothers. So those are the type of new home constructions that I think that I'm going to be covering today. Okay. First of all, if you guys don't know me, I'm Alan Wang. I run the Alan Wang Realty Group here and also own the Keller, Santa Clara Valley here in Santa Clara. We're definitely looking to grow this office. So if you're looking for a new opportunity or you have friends or other colleagues, please feel free to send them Bob's way and we'll be happy to talk to them. We're really excited about what we're building here. Little summary, I used to work in tech for about 14 years, in real estate about 17 years. New home construction is about 20% of my business. On some years, it could go as much as 35% of my business. I just closed one last week in Hayward, for example. So it's a good amount of revenue from new home construction. And I believe it's a competitive advantage because there's not a lot of agents that know how to work with new home construction. And Stanley asked some great questions, which I'll cover later. How do we make sure we don't get cut out of the transaction, right? Even more importantly. Well, I mean, maybe if you guys can raise your hand, how many of you are having trouble finding your buyer a home? I mean, even with COVID, I imagine that's an issue. So feel free to raise your hand in the participant window if you're having trouble finding a home. I mean, generally in the Silicon Valley, it's always tough. Even with COVID, we have low inventory. It's tough to find a home for your client. So what happens is new home construction really gives you another opportunity to do that. So definitely leverage that. The second item I want to cover is, as Stanley mentions a little bit, from a buyer's perspective, they ask the question, well, why should I bring an agent anyways? Why? I could just go in myself. I see the flags flying and the little signs. I don't need to bring an agent, right? Just come in. They just sign me in anyways. And so I would just encourage you, at the end of this class, you should be able to answer that question. And I want us to, as an agent group, to add more value than just to sign them in and disappear. Because there is still a lot of value that we can add to the process. So I think once we're done with this, you'll see more of what I mean there. First of all, why? Why new home construction? I mean, first of all, who doesn't like a brand new home? I mean, we happen to live in the Silicon Valley, and of course, a lot of the homes we sell are resale, they're older. That's just kind of the way it is. But around the rest of the nation, most people actually do go to D.R. Horton and buy a brand new house from the ground up, and that's their home buying experience. And who doesn't love that? You walk in, you got a model home, it's all staged, it's nice, the upgrades, you got the most modern upgrades, great ideas on how to upgrade. So it's brand new. You get to watch it from the concrete being poured to the frame being put up, and then the electrical wiring, the plumbing. It's a lot of fun. I mean, buying new home construction is definitely a lot of fun. I own a Summerhill home I bought 10 years ago, brand new, and I love it. It was a great experience to go through that, and not a lot of people get that experience anymore. So of course, who doesn't love a new home? You can also get a lot of value if you time it correctly. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. There's often less competition. Remember, there's kind of a strange dynamic between builders and realtors. They know they need us because we have the clients, but they also put out their own marketing so they don't have to pay us. It's expensive, right? 2.5%. It's a lot to pay us. If they can get somebody to come in to run their signs with that person that's spinning the sign or to do their own marketing, then they don't have to pay 2.5%. But they do know that we are a necessary cooperation group to cooperate. So kind of co-opetition, just like regular real estate. But there's often less competition because a lot of agents don't know about what's coming and what's new. And a lot of the buyers don't know either because it's not on the MLS. It's not generally on Redfin or Zillow or Realtor.com or KW app. It's not on there, right? So you have to really, really hunt for it. You either drive by or you happen to get on the list or things like that. That's how your agent tells you about it. So it's often less competitive than our market, especially. Those with the information win. Like I said, right? If you know about a development coming soon and you're keeping an eye on it and you can let your clients know before it even opens, you will be at an advantage there. And it's generally a fair process. The way I say usually is because most builders will do first come, first serve, or they'll set a lottery date where they come in and then they'll do a little lottery, pick the balls. Some of them go with a pre-approval order as well. So there's usually a fair process. However, I want to tell you, it's not always the case. If you build good relationships with the sales reps and they know you're looking for something, and maybe they'll sometimes open it early so you can get an early look. If someone drops out, sometimes they'll call you first beforehand if they really like you, you have a good relationship with them. So life is not always fair, right? It is about relationships, and if you have built good ones with sales agents, you might get more information. And it is generally an easy transaction, but again, I put a caution next to that because it's not. And I'll say it's exactly to Stanley's point. Why do people, oh, well, I want to just go myself, right? And so I want to caution you, yes, it could be easy, but be careful. Right? We need to add more value than that. And I'll go through that in detail. First things first, where do I find new homes construction? Now, in a market, if the house is not selling, you will see it on the MLS. They will do this as a last resort. So builders, when they can't sell, that's when they put it on the MLS. And that's when they know they have to participate and they have to sell this and they have no choice. They'll do it. I had the strange call from a builder who said, hey, we're interviewing agents to help sell our community. It's something new we're trying. I kind of scratched my head on that one because I think this development's been struggling. I think it probably costs more for them to be putting 2 staff members there full time at the sales office rather than just paying us a commission. I think that's why they decided to go that route. And it's struggling. And so they're talking to me about, well, would you like to list for us and things like that. But generally, their sales agents they all have real estate licenses, so they could list it themselves as well. But this is a strange new dichotomy of some builders, especially when it's really, really struggling, they'll enlist the help of a local agent. So keep an eye out for that. You never know if there's an opportunity for that. Some other sources, there used to be a site called Top 10 New Home Communities. I loved that site, but now it's down. I think it got bought out or went out of business. I don't know what their revenue model was anyways. I replaced it with this one, New Home Mag or New Homes Mag. And you'll see these when you actually can go to the grocery store and pick up something. They have these at the grocery store, the New Homes, they call it newhomesmag.com. You can search for them there. New Home Source is another good one. Again, none of these are all encompassing. You're gonna have to poke around and take a look and just filter on your own based on what your client wants. The other way I've honestly found the best way to find out information is to actually go to each site and actually look at what's coming in the areas that you know your clients are buying in. I know it's tedious. You gotta block your calendar to do it once a quarter maybe, but that's probably the best way to see what's coming soon is to once a quarter, block your calendar. I'm gonna go in, poke around all these sites and see what's available and then get yourself on the email list so that when they do come, that you'll get e-blasts. The sales office, another way, sometimes you'll drive by and often it's driving by, oh, what's that? You get out of your car, you look, there's a sign, it says KB Homes or Lennar, and then you go on the site, go, oh, okay, it looks like they bought a piece of land. You should monitor that. Right? But getting on the email blast is always good. Unfortunately, email blasts are per community. They don't generally have they don't have a global list, so you'll have to subscribe to each community, unfortunately. Physical signs, of course, sometimes they have their own open house signs or signs that they put into different people's lots and they point you that direction. Another way is, this is a little more challenging, is you can always monitor with the city because these are long development plans. So the city will have plots of land that are being sold, and then the news and parcel, they'll be talking about, oh, Shea Homes bought this plot of land, and it's going to take another 10 years from that point, sometimes 5 to 10 years to develop. So you can monitor that and keep an eye on it. Obviously, it doesn't solve your problem if your client needs to buy right now, but it keeps you in the know, right? You want to know what's coming soon so that when you're at that moment in time, if you do have a client hot and heavy, you can go attack that particular new home construction. Well, how do new home constructions work? Stanley covered this a little bit. Generally, for most home builders, the official way we work together is a referral structure. So you're a referral agent. You have to be, I have had a few that actually call me the buyer's agent, but technically I'm a referral agent. You must be present on the first visit with your buyer. And so this is what I do to safeguard the commission. So basically you're gonna be out of luck. If your client walks in to one of these new home communities without you and they sign in and they don't write you down, your name, or you're not there physically, you will be out of your commission. You will not get a referral in most cases. So very, very important. When you have your buyer's consultation and you have a feeling that your client might be looking at new home construction in this area, you need to preface it by saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to send you. What I do is I just preempt. For example, if my client says I'm buying a townhouse in Mountain View or Sunnyvale, we know there are definitely new home constructions in those two cities. So right away, I would just tell them, oh, by the way, I'm going to send you a list of new home construction, and we're going to go and explore them together right away. I know you're not quite ready yet, but these take a long time to build. So let's just go look at them and just see if there's anything that you might like. The reason I do that is I just want to protect ourselves, get it out of the way, number one. Number two, get them signed in just in case, because once they're starting talking to you, they're going to be driving around. They're going to see those flags. They're going to walk in. And that's what they're going to do. And then you just don't know, right? They're going to go home. Oh my gosh, I love that. Stanley, I want you to represent us. But unfortunately, Stanley didn't know they were going to go swing by. And that's the worst thing to be. Obviously, we can ask a question and we can beg the sales agent to fix it and all that, but they don't have to. I mean, it's designed in this manner because we're supposed to refer the client in. So what I do is I literally do the search for every new home construction. I send on the top, it says, please do not visit this new home community construction without me on your first visit. I put it in the email. And the reason I do that is because now I have an email trail. So I've actually had clients go into the unit and then I go, oh no. And then I told the sales agent, hey, here's an email I'm going to forward to you. I'm the one that told them about your community. They didn't know before me. And here's my email trail. And then they've gotten that overwritten before. So protect yourself, right? Get it out of the way, or just do your job, right? Take them there the first visit, just get it off the list. That way, just in case they do buy, then you're covered, right? So, and most of the builders need you there on the first visit. You need to be there physically. Do not assume that they'll take your phone call or your card. Some builders are very nice. They will just say, oh, yeah, just let me know. You send me an email, say, hey, my client so-and-so's coming in. I'm busy that day. And they'll go, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll take care of it. If the market's not hot, that's probably what they'll do. If the market is hot, they may or may not. And it just depends on your relationship with them. So again, if you get nothing out of this class, be there on the first visit. The next thing is coming up with the release date. So let's say you go in, your clients walk the models, goes, I like plan 1, plan 3. You go to this board, they look at the board, you look at the lots. Okay, that's plan 1, 1, 1. And then you pick the lots that you like. And then you got to find out, okay, if it's available right now, I would tell your client, if your clients love that unit right now, at this very moment in time, you tell them to go either bring their checkbook to the showings, or you tell them go and get it and come back right away. Because I've had houses disappear within hours. You thought you liked it, you come back the next day with your check and it's gone. So it's better that you preempt, hold the lot, then make your decision, take your time, review your disclosures, whatever, instead of thinking too long and losing it. I've had this happen to a lot of people. You don't want to have to happen. Either have them come with a check ready or have them go back, get it, and come back right away. But if that's the house right now is available, that's what you need to do. You put the check. When you put the check down, you hold that lot. They don't deposit the check. They just hold the lot for you so that then you can start negotiating. Right? You can have the negotiation process with them. So Stanley, you asked me the question, well, are we referral, are we buyer's agent? Yeah, we're technically paid by referral, but also technically the sales agent only represents the seller. They don't represent the buyer. So actually, technically, the buyer's all alone in this transaction, and they actually they're all alone. So they should leverage you, and you should be there. I've never had a salesperson not allow me to help the buyer. I've never had that situation. Yes, technically, I'm paid by referral, but I'm still there. I'm negotiating. I'm reviewing disclosures. I'm helping out in the process, just like I would on a regular deal. I've never had anyone have any issues with that. Legally, I don't know, but I'll tell you this: when you're signing them off, it says that they represent the seller, which means the buyer's on their own, right? So if they want to bring me in, that's their call, right? If they want to bring their dad, I mean, if the buyer doesn't want to be alone, I don't think the seller can say, hey, sorry, you can't be a part of this, right? No, I don't think so. I've never had that happen. So if you do find the house, you reserve the lot, put the check, and then negotiate if you can. If market's high, you can. But if it's not, right now, the home construction is actually struggling a little bit. Condos and townhomes aren't doing that well overall. So you have opportunity to negotiate with the builder. Okay, we'll talk more about the negotiation process. Now, let's say what you like is not available right now on the map. Let's say either they're all sold out, or your client really wants that end unit east-facing front door, right, which is lot 54, right? That's the one they want. But that's not available. So your next question would be, well, sales agent, when is that one coming? And they also often him and haw, I don't really know. So what you can do is, well, I'm going to send you my pre-approval letter or get pre-approved with your lender, and I want to be in the queue for that lot or that unit. And you let me know what the process is. Now, like I told you earlier, process varies. If it's super competitive, some of them do the lottery. Like Bay Meadows, right? You just come in every Saturday morning, they would do a lottery, and then sometimes if you come twice, they give you two balls. If you came 3 weeks in a row, they give you 3 balls. You come, and then they cap it at 5 weeks. They give you 5 balls. And then somebody randomly picks it, or they have a little machine or not a little lottery thing, and then bam, there you go. Some of it, I mean, you can call that fair, but it kind of stinks too, right? It's all about chance. There's also priority list methods. So this is why I tell you to be proactive. When you know a community is going to fit your client and they haven't released any plans yet, ask them, who's your preferred lender? They might have one in-house. Sometimes they have their own. I think Shea has their own mortgage, so you get pre-approved with them and get on the list, right? So I always tell them, I'm going to get pre-approved, get on the list. Or let's say they have Wells Fargo or BofA or Chase, then you go with one of their lenders, get approved, and then you send it in and say, here's an email, I want to reserve my place on your priority list. Now, we don't know if they're going to do priority list or not, but you just want to get it in. You want to get the timestamp in your email. So in case they do priority list, that you're on the top. That's what you want to do. I mentioned builder discretion, right? Sometimes it's relationships there. I had a builder in my last community who they pick and chose buyers that they like to build the community. So that was really strange, but they wanted to build a community with a certain diversity of people. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't say it, explicitly, but that's how they did it. And then some builders are super annoying. They do the bidding process where they actually tell you, well, bring in an envelope, and we'll do a silent bid. It's like you're doing an auction at the softball tournament. So some of them do it that way. I've talked about the check. As soon as you like a house, put the hold down. This doesn't hurt. Hold it, reserve it, so nobody else can take it from you. Move quickly. Don't think too long, because you can always get it back. If it doesn't work, you can always get it back. And once you're done negotiating, or you got the lot you wanted, you get the contract from the builder. Now, this contract is very builder friendly for those of you that have done home construction before. Read it. It is nothing like the car contract at all. Make sure you look at it. It's very builder friendly. Let your client know that. They have all the rights. I have a slide later that talks about what to look out for on there, but take a look at that and read it carefully. And the key is, yes, you can't change it. The last client that I had just bought a house from Summerhill Homes about 3 weeks ago. He's a lawyer at Google, and he was really bummed out that he couldn't redline this contract. It's not allowed, but certainly I did my best to tell him, hey, these are things you got to look out for. And he says, darn, I can't redline it. No, you cannot. But they are designed to be very builder friendly. I found that clients are fine with it as long as you tell them what to expect. That way they don't get surprised later. That's the key. So it's all in plain English. You can read it, and I'll go through a little bit of feel the gotchas later. Upgrades, again, sometimes they will hold deposit for upgrades. So they'll hold the deposit, which is 3%, and they'll also hold the upgrades. Some of them go 50% of upgrades, whatever you upgrade. So let's say your client wants to do backsplash, countertops, tile, hardwood floors throughout, and then they back out of the house. That 50% deposit, if it's past that contingency period, goes to the builder, because they might have to rip out what they did. Some buyers might have that red and black mosaic, which no one else likes, but they like it. The builder's going to take that 50% and going to rip it out. I got the answer to this recently, by the way. I always had this question, wait a minute, in the state of California, you can technically only take 3% security deposit from the seller, right, in the buyer in a regular transaction. If you hold these upgrades, can you take that too? Apparently, these builder contracts, they can take that 50%. And I don't think it's a deposit. It's a deposit for materials. So that's how they kind of get around that. And they're actually able to take that from your buyer. So make sure your buyer understands that, hey, if you back out after loan contingency, you're out this 50% and the 3% in your deposit check, which is different than resale. So once your buyer picks all the upgrades, which is the funnest part of everything, it's up to you how involved you want to be. We had a client that I mean, it all depends. Jennifer, my team just had a client. We got them into new home construction in Newark, and they were just lost. They wanted us to go with them to the upgrade. So I think Jennifer went to San Ramon and literally picked everything for them because they had no idea what they wanted to pick. I've been going to my client in Mountain View. Their big thing's carpet. We've gone 3 times to go feel the carpet with our elbows and feel if it's soft or not and design on patterns. Yeah, I like to be involved just to help out, be a part of the process as much as possible. Most agents don't go to this, and that's fine. San Ramon is a bit far, so you don't have to go to this. But if the client wants you there, go help them out. Why not, right? I mean, it's not that hard a transaction. Go add some value. After that, after the upgrades are selected, the rest of the appointments are mainly for buyers. You don't really do much beyond that because they'll do frame walks, they'll do electrical walk, the drywall walk, and then the final walkthrough, which most builders don't even let us go anymore. And I think the reason they don't let us go is because we talk too much and we slow down the process. So that's usually the case. And it already takes 3 hours, and when we go there, it doesn't stop, right? So they've not allowed us to go anymore. You can certainly ask and see if you can at least go to the final walkthrough. But they're really trying to educate your buyer during that final walkthrough on how the house works. And sometimes we're walking around and going, hey, you got to fix that paint. You got to do that. You got to do this. And it slows it down. So they don't like us there. But if you can go, I like to go to the walkthrough at least. The buyers like it when you're there. But unfortunately, they won't let us go these days. So just tell them, sorry, Bill won't let me go. But look out for these things, X, Y, Z. And then beyond that, once the final walkthrough happens, the sign off happens just like we do in resale. You have to sign off in escrow, and then you record and close. Some builders are okay once you sign off and fund it. They give you the key. Some builders go, no, got to close it before they give you the key. So some of them are a little more flexible than others. This part always seems to be a fire drill. I don't know why. I guess real estate's almost always a fire drill, but I've always noticed the builders always kind of doing a walkthrough, sign off, fund, record all in 1 day or 2 days. That's kind of what I noticed. And I think it's because they're doing construction and everything's they're trying to always close by the end of the month or the end of the quarter. And so they're always rushing on that. Keys get handed over and then everything's good. One note, the builders often forget to CC the agent and they talk to the customer directly. So just tell your client, hey, try to loop me in when you can. That way I can be involved in the process. If they don't, they don't, right? But at the very least, they should loop you in at the end when it's a 30-day notice that's given by the builder. You should be looped in and help them, okay, which loan agent are you going with, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I mentioned this. There's how agents work, and then there's how we should work. One of my friends used to work at Shea. I miss her. She's so great. She used to say this: 75%, 80% of agents drop off their clients and are never heard from again. I mean, that's pretty bad. If 75 or 80% of us are dropping off our clients, that's horrible. I don't know about you guys, but my business is mainly referral based. And I want these guys to sell this house with me and refer their friends. And if I just disappear, I don't know that they're going to say anything nice about me or refer anybody. I'm not adding a lot of value, right? I'm making an easy check, I guess, but I'm losing out on that referral. She also said, I wish they would just care. These agents don't even care. Like, they just sign in and they leave. That's horrible. But that's not a good way to do business. So I say don't operate that way. But what you should do, there are a few kind of best practices I'd like to get you to follow. First thing you need to do before you take your clients is call and ask them, are you cooperating with brokers? This is very important. Now, most of the big builders do. Even in the hot market, they'll still give you $20,000. The least I made is $15,000, $10,000. They'll still give you something. The bigger builders generally, except Mission Peak. Mission Peaks pays you $500. So don't take anybody there. But most builders will do that. But like I said, there's some builders that don't pay at all. They don't care. They don't see the value, especially smaller builders. They just might not do it all. So you don't want to be bringing your clients over there if they're not cooperating. I have work for free. I won't name the name. I'm not too happy with them. They're very, especially the smaller private builders. When the market's hot, they'll pay you 3%, 4%. When the market's when the market's hot, they won't pay you anything, right? $500 or something, or zero. But when the market's not hot, then that's when they're suddenly 3%, sell 3, make it 4%, things like that. So most the builders that are smart will be at least semi-consistent. The ones that are not, they'll be a little penny pinching. But be careful. Make sure you call. Don't bring your client if they're not. Again, I did do it once because it was a really, really good client. I helped them through the process, but I was not happy because they were not paying me a dime. I'm blessed that this year they sold that house and they bought another house. So again, that relationship kept, right? And they knew too that I wasn't being paid, but I was coming to help anyways. And that pays you, it pays you back later, pay it forward. I've talked about proactive, right? Bring them to all the inconveniences right away, or warn them, like I said, and please do not visit new home construction homes without me on your first visit. Oh, here, by the way, here are all the new home constructions in the cities that we've been talking about. Okay, have that email evidence. I talked about the relationship going forward. Your clients need your help, and I've seen this multiple times in the sales agents. I'm good friends with all these sales agents and most of the builders, and they really hate it when the agents drop off their clients, because they're now dealing with their emotions and all their uncertainty and the fact that they don't trust the sales rep, right? The seller's rep. No matter how nice they are, they don't feel like they're on their side, which they're not technically, right? If we're there, it helps a lot, right? Just like in a regular transaction, when you're helping out a buyer, you can talk some sense into them. Oh, by the way, I got you an amazing deal. If you look at the comps here, you can't even get something like this on the market. Why would you walk away from this deal? Right? It sounds like a really, if I were you, I would buy this house. I mean, why would you walk away? Or, oh, I really don't like this or that. Well, you know, we can fix it with an upgrade. I mean, again, these are things that we do as agents. We help them with the emotion, right? And they need your help. The sales rep can't do it for you. They can, they're pretty talented, but the trust is with you, right? You brought them in. But if you disappear, then you're adding no value. They also need help comparing loan agents. This gets complicated. For example, the builders are always throwing in different kinds of deals. So the home construction builder will say, if you use our in-house lender, we'll give you $5,000 towards closing costs or $10,000 towards closing costs. That sounds like a really good deal, right? If you think about it. But here's the thing. This is what I've noticed. There's no free lunch. No free lunch. So if you go with the builder's lender and they're doing $10,000 credit, guess what? Their interest rate's higher. And you're spending a lot of that credit as a point to buy down the rate that you would have gotten with another bank that if you didn't do that. But your clients need your help to think about that. So literally what I do with this, I put everything on a grid. I go, okay, what are they offering interest rate rise? All right, this one's 3%. They're doing 3.5%. Our lender, 3%. Yeah, what kind of program? 30-year fix. Okay, that's the same. All right, now what are your fees? Okay, this one's $1,500. Theirs is $5,000. Whoa, okay, that's a little high. And then are there any points or fees? You need to ask all those questions for your clients and compare. Then the next question is, okay, builder loan agent. So fine, you're giving us $10,000, your rate's 0.5 higher. How much is it to buy down your rate to 3%? And these are advanced questions that you need to ask. And if you figure out that it takes $10,000 to buy the rate down, then pretty much there is no credit, right? The credit's gone. And actually, you're actually not doing that well. Right? So you have to really do that comparison. Help your client. It's complicated. It's confusing. So think about how you help them with that. If it's a lottery, I tend to attend the bidding rounds if I can make it. I know sometimes if it's really competitive, you might be going to the bidding rounds for 4, 5, 6 times. I actually had a client who I happened to bring my daughter that morning because I didn't have daycare. So she came, it was Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And my daughter, I didn't know at the time, has the stroke of luck that I've never seen. So they asked her to pick a few of those balls. And I think there's only 2 balls for us. We picked 2, and literally our number got drawn twice. And this other guy had 5 balls and didn't get drawn once. So she, until this day, she gets credit for winning that lottery. And imagine the clients, right? How cool that is for them. That not only that they get drawn once, they got twice. It could have bought 2 houses if they could afford it. But again, try to be a part of it, right? I mean, it's fun. I've actually lined up for a client before. Actually, one of our clients, my wife didn't have a good feeling about it, and I was busy that morning. So she actually went an hour earlier than I could get there, and earlier than the clients. And she got in line, and she literally got in front of some other couple that wanted the exact same lot, and they ended up winning for them. So again, you can make a difference in your clients' lives. I haven't camped out. That's a little rough. I haven't camped out for a client, but I have brought them food and coffee and all that at night. Brought them some food and sustenance, coffee in the morning. I've done that as well. So, be a part of the process. Oh, I forgot to talk about that. First come, first served. Another way that new home construction is sold is when they say first come, first served. When they say first come, first served, you have to show up, and you're basically lining up. It's awful. It's like Black Friday. So when they say first come, first served, you get prepared that you might be camping out. I don't really like that one, but it is what it is. So if it's really competitive, you could be out there at least a day ahead. So most of the time I've seen people come maybe 3 o'clock on a Friday for a Saturday 9 a.m. and they literally do camp out. They do have agreements with each other. Sometimes they might decide about 1 a.m. They go, you know what, guys, this is getting late. How about we all agree that we sign this form and put ourselves in order and stick it on the door. You guys okay with that? And then they'll actually do that. However, if everyone went home and I showed up at 3 a.m., I think I'm first in line, right? So, it's a little bit risky to do that, but I've seen people do that as well. I mentioned negotiating for your client. Well, what can you negotiate? Well, you might wonder. The answer is a lot. I'm going to start with the few things you should negotiate. Obviously, price. You always negotiate price. Price is what the builder does not want to move on. The builder does not want to move on price, obviously, because it affects the rest of the development. Once you can't get much more on price, the next thing you should attack is upgrades. Upgrades are values to upgrade the property. So, for example, I want $50,000 towards upgrades. You can negotiate different ways. You can add that on top of the purchase price, or you go, nope, I want that included in the purchase price. You can do that as well because you don't want the higher property tax. So you can lump it in, or they might say, can't do that, lump it out. So you have to figure that out. Now, remember, the builders make at least 50% margin on these upgrades. They make a ton of money on these upgrades. So they're more flexible on the upgrades, that's for sure. The other next item you would do is closing costs. Remember they said $10,000 towards closing costs? Well, remember, on new home construction, the closing costs are 100% covered by the buyer, both sides. There's no county standard, okay? So, $10,000. But again, you want to be careful there. You don't want $15,000 or $20,000 if you're not planning to spend it. If you go over the normal, 10 to 15 is pretty normal. If you go too much higher, you're going to be just using it to buy down points. So you might be better off getting the upgrade credits instead. It just depends on what's important to your client, right? Do they want more upgrades? Do they want a better loan program? What do they want to do? And then this seems a little nitpicky, but you could also negotiate for appliances. Washer, dryer, fridge. You can negotiate for that because most new home constructions do not come with washer, dryer, and refrigerators. So you can also negotiate for that as well. And I always ask to be a part of the contract signing. These days, it used to be you could go in, sit down with them, and get it signed. I got to tell you something. I'm really annoyed with the builders these days. But it used to be that we could come in, sit down, have a face-to-face conversation. Nowadays, they literally go, all right, the seller agrees. Now send your DocuSign, sign it now. Otherwise, it's gone. Wait, hold on a second. I didn't have a chance to even review this thing. It was really frustrating. I really don't like it. Don't worry, you've seen it before. It's all the same thing. I don't like that. I like to be able to sit down and go through it. So what I have done, the agents have done this to me on a Sunday afternoon. I'm out on a hike, and then they go, I need you to sign this by 5, otherwise the deal's off the table. So what I've done is I'm like, fine, let's get on a con call, and you walk through the contract, and I'll chime in, remotely. Wasn't happy about it, but I've done enough of these where I know. But if you haven't, then you really need to read the contract so you can get smart on it. But during that meeting, I would chime in a little bit and said, don't forget this, don't forget that, and be aware of that. But that's another way. But I don't like it when they force people to sign within an hour, and no one's gotten the document yet to review. And disclosures. This is painful, by the way. There are a ton of disclosures that they send over, and you have to do your best to get through these. Again, it's not, as a referral agent, I don't know if it's required, frankly, but as an agent who wants referrals, you should try to poke through these best you can and see if you can find any red flags. For me, I'm always curious what used to be here that they're building on. Are there any kind of environmental issues? Was there any soil excavations that they had to get done? Were there vapor barriers they put in for whatever was under there? Those are things I kind of want to know about the plot of land that they actually built on, and what type of mitigations that they did on that piece of land. And of course, the normal NHD was nearby, etc. I talked about upgrades, help with that, and final walkthrough if you're allowed, and then CC you in general. Some trade secrets I'm going to pass on to you. If possible, always buy in the very first release or as early as possible. Now, why do I say that? The reason I say that is in a new home construction, the first release is always kind of their test release. They always test the market out. They're not really sure how the market's going to take their product. So they tend to underprice it a little bit just to kind of see how it's going. And often the builders are rushing so that there's no model home built yet. And that's another reason. Most buyers cannot buy without a model home. They can't see it. They can't visualize it. So if your buyer can, I'm telling you, the pricing is always better before the model home. Always. As soon as a model home shows up, the buyers go, oh my gosh, it's beautiful, and they start buying. It's just human nature. Most people cannot visualize it. But I'm telling you, the majority of these homes are cookie cutter. There's nothing really that exciting about a townhome in the Bay Area. I mean, they all pretty much look the same. Maybe the single family, okay, yeah, there's a little bit more flex if you're on top of Hayward Hills or something. You might need to see that one. But most of the townhomes and condos are pretty boring. They're pretty cookie cutter. So if your client can do that, or maybe you could see if they have another community they're building somewhere else, a little bit further away, that has a model home, go down there. But that's how you get value if you can buy in the beginning. If you can buy in the first release or pre-model, that's the best. I got my mom a house without a model house, and she got a deal on it. I had a model on mine, and then the client in Mountain View, he just bought pre-model. I think the models just came online last week, and I'm pretty sure they're selling even faster now. So, and also, okay, fine. Let's say you didn't get pre-model. Why buy in the middle, the beginning or middle rather than the end? It's just math. If you're a builder, each release, you increase the price by a little bit. You increase by a little bit so that you can add value. So by the end of it, the entire community has equity. That's what the builder tries to do. I've only seen, I mean, this doesn't always work. If they're selling over 2 or 3 years and there's a big market dip in the middle, you better bet they're dealing in the middle. They're going to be making deals and getting these things sold. Okay? But assuming everything's steady, they would like a low price and then everybody to have made equity by the end of it. It doesn't always happen. I've only had this rule not work once. And my client bought first release in Milpitas, and then .com, the subprime meltdown happened. And so everyone started fire selling. But he's back now. He's still there, and he's fine. Over the long run, it's fine. I talked about the in-house lenders already, credit towards closing costs. If possible, there's, again, well, I guess I should disclose. I do own stock in Wells Fargo, but it doesn't really drive me, so just heads up there. But for example, Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, Bank of America, or Chase, some of these regular banks that most people get their mortgages with. The good news about those is that if you're going out and you're shopping resale homes with those lenders, often they are also the preferred lenders for these builders. So it's really simple. You just connect your Wells Fargo person with their Wells Fargo person, or their BFA with their BFA person, and then say, you just connect them and go, hey, I want you to transfer the pre-approval from outside, BFA to internal BFA, and I want you to put me on the list. And you're done. You're considered approved. Really easy, straightforward. They don't worry, they don't get screwed. They split half or whatever internally, so they don't lose any commission or whatever they're doing. So you don't have to worry about that. But the builder likes to work with their lenders, and the reason is they want to control anything that goes wrong. So they have weekly meetings with these preferred lenders. They know exactly where each file is. They don't want anything to be late, because if it's late, it's costs, right? There's loan costs, there's carrying costs, all kinds of problems. They don't like that. Okay, that's why they like their. Now, if you use an outside lender and you're late, they're going to charge you a late fee. Okay, bear that in mind. Okay. Some lenders have what's called a Builder Best program. These are really neat. You can lock in a long-term rate. Example, they have a builder program where you can lock in your interest rate for 1 year, and with an optional float down if the rate drops again. Now, you might have to pay a fee, and sometimes they credit you back. Sometimes they don't. So you have to figure out what the pros and cons are of this program. But if you're making a bet that interest rates are going up, and by within 1 year, you're sure your house is going to close within 1 year, and you want to lock that rate in, then you could go with the Builder Best program, see if they have it. Just make sure you can get that credit back because you have to pay to lock it. And also, if you go over the 1 year, that $5,000 or whatever you pay to hold is going to be gone, or you have to pay to extend. So make sure that you're really positive that you have a lot of buffers. Let's say you do the Builder Best for 1 year and the close time is 6 months. That's safe. 6 month buffer, I'm good with that. But if you're doing an 11-month close and it's a 12 month, I don't feel good with that. Builders are often late. So be aware of that. I talked about the negotiations. Location, some other trade secrets. Location is very important, obviously, in real estate. But try to buy in the middle of the community if you can. Most of these new home construction in our area, they're all in kind of whatever land's left over. Right? It's usually on a railroad, on a busy street, or there's something wrong with at least part of the lot. That's just the way it is. Try to buy in the middle of the community. Right? You don't want to buy on the big street if you can help it. The most value I've seen, or they call it lot premiums. So there's some builders, they give you a base price. You go, oh, look, it's 1.3. And then when you go see it, you go, wait, why is this one 135? Oh, there's a 50,000 lot premium. Why? Oh, because it's in the middle of the community. It's an end unit. It's facing the park. That's why we're charging you a lot premium, 50,000. Which kind of makes sense, right? They tease you in the door with 1.3. And then if you want the good stuff, you want to be on the street, they'll sell 1.3 to you. But if you want to be in the middle, that's an extra 50K. Another trade secret, the riskiest move is to buy a model home. Now, I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. The model home is beautiful. I mean, they're usually $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of upgrades in them. They're absolutely beautiful. The yard's done, everything's nice. They're sneaky, tricky, really something that's tempting. Okay, the model home is always sold at the end. What did I say about model homes? Right? What did I say about home value? If you sell it at the end, it's always the most expensive. And on top of that, they're tacking on the 100, 200,000 upgrades that people have stomped around for 2.5 years. You're buying a house, yes, this remodel is really nice, but again, remember, people have been walking through this home forever. So they're not brand new. I mean, they're still a couple of years away, right? So I would just be careful with the model home. It's the most expensive house. It's the nicest house. And if the builder's smart, the model home is usually trying to cancel out a big street or railroad or something else. So it's usually not in the best location, but it is darn nice. So I think just let your clients know that if they're looking to buy the model home, it's fine. Just let them know that it's designed to counter out something else usually, and it's also usually the most expensive house. But they like the model, let them buy the model, right? I mean, that's not our job to tell them what to do. But if you're talking about value, pure value, the model home is probably the biggest ripoff, in my opinion. Always some other tricks if you're advising your clients on what to upgrade. Always do electrical. Always. I regret this to this day. I went a little cheap on this. Not cheap, I just didn't know. I didn't think about it. For example, I have a downstairs bedroom and I didn't put an outlet for a ceiling fan, a conduit. And that would have cost probably a couple $100. I just didn't think about it at the time. I'm never going to put a ceiling fan down there. But turns out, it does get a little hot down there, and I don't want to turn on the AC. It's just one person downstairs. I would love to have a ceiling fan. Actually, downstairs bedroom, I would have liked to have 4 can lights now. That I look back, I should have did recessed lighting there. But you know how it is. If you're on the ground floor, in order to do recessed lighting, they got to cut the wall, and that's just too much. It's not worth it for me. But if you had done that earlier, it would have been a lot cheaper to pull those cans at the early stages when they're actually doing electrical. So I would say don't go cheap on electrical. Now it's almost standard, but if you want those LED, I think I typo here. The LED, no, sorry. For your TV, right? You want your cables there. You don't want the cabling put in, or at least a conduit for it. Much easier to do beforehand. If you're a surround sound person, you want at least the wiring. You should do it beforehand. Again, outlet, ceiling fans, whatever. Just do it now. So much easier, super cheap in the beginning too. $300 per outlet usually. And last trade secret I had, if somebody backs out of a home, this is an opportunity. For example, if your client really wanted it and they lost it, don't feel bad. Say, hey, put me in backup. But sometimes they'll call you, go, hey, that buyer got cold feet. How are you guys looking? Before I put it back, do you want in? The sales agent, plan it in their head, tell them, and then they'll remember, and then they'll make sure to call you. And maybe you don't have to do the lottery again, or camp out, or first come, first serve, any of that. They just might call you because you're just ready to go. They don't like it when someone backs out. Just like we don't like a TFT, they don't like a TFT, right? Transaction fell through. Contracts. I mentioned the builder friendly, just remind them of that. The only contingency period you have in a new home construction contract is a loan. And it's usually a passive contingency. What does passive contingency mean? Passive contingency means that if it'll say 30 days, loan contingency, and if you don't do anything, they assume that you've released it. Remember, in resale, we actually have to sign a contingency removal form, correct? In new home construction, you don't. If 30-day passes, you don't say anything, they assume you're fine. So what I do when I have a new home construction contract, I block my calendar because I don't have a TC manage this. It's a referral deal. There's really no paperwork. So I don't have a TC manage this. It's too easy. But I do block the loan contingency and I do block the close date. It's only the two things you really need. There are no other contingencies. There's no other way of backing out. So make sure your clients know that. There's no property contingency. There's no appraisal contingency. Just loan. That's it. That's your only out. If you can't get a loan, then you're out. You can get out, get your deposit back. There is a penalty for every day you're late. So if you read the contract, always go to the close section and find out the penalty per day you're late. I've seen 150, I've seen 250, I've seen 500, I've seen 1,000 a day. Now, if you use an in-house lender, they won't charge us because if they're a lender, that's their fault. And if they do try to charge you, you tell them, no, that's your lender. I'm not paying for their mistake. But most of the time, they won't be late because they manage it really tightly. And then Lon had asked a good question. What do you do when they have a late fee and it's their in-house lender's fault? Exactly. You don't pay it. I refuse to pay that. If that's their lender's fault, that's their fault. They shouldn't have referred me that lender. And they usually won't. They're not that dumb. They won't do it. It's their own lender. It's their own fault. They try, tell them, this is your lender. I'm not paying. They're usually very, and you know what they do? They just extend the close date. So it's not really ever late. That's usually what they do. If you're going with an outside lender, I want to warn you, especially if you're buying an HOA, townhouse or planned unit development, there's something that's needed called the HOA project approval. You guys all know this, right? With all the resale houses that you're buying and selling, every lender needs to have what's called the HOA project approval. If you work at the big bank, you don't often run into this because usually they do so much business that somebody in that complex is refinanced or bought before, so that project approval is always fresh. So you don't usually see this as a showstopper. However, when you buy a new home construction and it's early in the process, they don't have the HOA project approval yet. And this becomes very risky for your outside lender because they're going to be chasing this HOA project approval with the builder, and they're going to be really annoyed with your bank. They may not be fast. They might be too busy. And if they don't get that project approval, your outside lender, they may not be able to get this loan done on time. And that could be what we call a critical path, meaning it could be a situation where everything else gets late and delayed. So what you want to do is going with the in-house lender, they usually have all that ready to go. So that's one benefit of using the in-house lender. So I think if you were to talk to your client, hey, so what should I do? Should I use in-house lender? Or should I use my lender? And pros and cons, right? All right, your outside lender, good rates. It sounds like they have good rates, good credits, and they're beating the in-house lender with rates, etc. But the only thing I want to remind you is that the in-house lender, they have the HOA project approval, and we don't. If it's early, now if it's in the middle of the process and a lot of houses with that bank is closed already, totally fine. Then the risk is very low. You just call them and say, can you check and see if there's a HOA project approval on this development? And they say yes, then you're good to go. No difference. But that's the one risk. I've actually had to manage a bank and KB Homes and try to get an HOA project approval done because we were going to be late. So I've actually had to do that. Okay. Let's talk about the builder. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of the builder. Obviously, they're here to make money, profit, right? They're not in this for charity. They're there to make money and make a profit. In-house lenders, I mentioned this, they want to control the process. I don't know if they have some side deal going on. I don't know if that's legal, but they just probably want things to go smoothly overall. That's just why they want to do that. Sales reps are great. They're actually generally very nice people, and they're very helpful. They've got a great personality. They're good to work with, and people generally like them. That's why they sell houses pretty well, those new home constructions. So work with them. They will tell you anything. I always ask them, so, hey, what do you think the builder's going to take? And they'll tell me a number, and I'll usually go a little bit more, right, beyond that number, and just see what happens. I talked about spending on marketing, so they don't have to pay you. So just be aware of that. I mean, it's it's co-opetition, right? Is what it is. They kind of competing with us, but they know they need us too. So they pay us when they have to. Their commission affects their bottom line, as FYI. The small builders will remind you of that, but the bigger builders will just consider it to be more of just a cost of doing business. Now, if a home is early in the process, they're less willing to negotiate. It's no different than being on the market. People always ask me, "Oh, how's this hit the market? You think they'll take an offer 200K under?" No, not on the first day on the market. 30 days later, sure, maybe. Right. So that's where these guys come in. If there's just a piece of land, they're not going to negotiate. They've got 6 months, a year to build this thing. They have 6 months, a year to find a buyer for that piece of land or that house eventually. However, if they do complete it and it's 30 days from closing, they're suddenly very motivated. And I'll tell you why. Actually, I found out why in one of the classes when I taught this class. They have taken out a loan for that particular lot to build. And it's fine but as soon as that house is completed, the loan becomes due. And so they usually have to pay they have a penalty for carrying it. That's why they become more motivated, because the interest that's going to come is going to hurt. That's why they're very motivated. There's another time that builders are also very motivated at month ends and quarter ends and year ends. Especially the builders that are public companies, they have shareholders to answer to. So they want to get these things into the accounts receivable column of the balance sheet. And so by month end, quarter end, especially year end, it's almost like buying a car. You'll get some good deals around Christmas time if you're buying new construction. And last thing I'm going to leave you with, relationships matter. They matter in everything we do, but especially in new home construction. Be nice to the sales reps that you're working with. Okay, Q&A. I think I answered your question, Stanley. Stanley, did any questions that I missed on yours?
Do you still sign a agency disclosure with the buyer?
No, I don't. I don't usually. There's a form that you sign with them anyways that say you're referring them in and talks about the cost and all that. So I always sign that one because I want to make sure we get paid, right? So that form is usually sufficient for this whole process.
And marketing, what material you can use from the builder to market the property?
Oh yeah, the marketing question. I would just ask them permission, whatever you want to do. Obviously, if the house is on MLS, then that's totally fine, right? You could probably do that. But if it's not, then I usually ask their permission. I've had builders call me during COVID, and one of the builders called me and said, "Hey, my model home's open for you. If you want to come and film and do whatever you want, feel free and showcase it." And so as long as you get the permission, it's fine. I would get it in writing. But be careful though, right? When you market it, you don't want to tip off the buyer to where it is. I think they go in without you. That's all. So, but yeah, you should ask their permission, get it in writing, especially if you're using their photos and all that. I would, in their floor plans, I would just make sure that they're okay with you doing that. But I've had them give me permission to come in and film and pitch them. It's all good for them, right? So they don't generally worry about that. Okay, June. Hi, June. When does the loan contingency start? The day you sign the contract or when the construction is close to finish? No, it starts actually, there's always a lag from when your client sign the contract to when the builder signs the contract. So for me, it's when the builder signs the contract. That's when the contingencies start. It's an executed contract, right? Just like a regular contract that we do. So whenever the builder signs, your buyer signs, that's day 0. And then from there, you count 15, 30 days, 20 days, whatever they have in the contract. And that's your loan contingency. That's it. You don't have, it doesn't matter if it's a year from now, that contingency is gone in the first month usually. Yes, new construction does take a long time. Sometimes they're ready to go, move-in ready, 30-day close. Sometimes they're 6 months to a year. Usually I've seen 6 months to a year, pretty normal. Yeah, 6 months to a year. And in Fremont, they've had delays two years even out on some of those condos over there. So yeah, it just depends. Sometimes the city is really tough to deal with. Miko, my clients are paying cash. They charge a late fee. How do we fight for that? But were they late? If they were late, doesn't matter if they're cash or not. They shouldn't be late. So if their cash didn't arrive on time, then they're going to be charged a penalty. Doesn't matter. But if there's some other reason, I mean, the only reason I can think of is maybe they're wiring money from abroad and it didn't arrive on time, maybe. But yeah, if you're late, you're late. They have costs when they're late, and they're going to charge that to you. Okay, any other questions? I'm just looking at the chat. I think I covered everything there. Any other questions from anyone else on the call?
Oh, hi, Alan.
Hello.
I wasn't able to come earlier, but I've been to a couple of
Keep talking. Sorry, my power's out. Keep talking.
Oh, and I've seen them on the MLS where they only, you have to be careful, they'll only offer the buying agent, the selling side, 1%. So I went in and countered a commission. And
But you counted the commission?
Yeah, they took it. So some people that are just on the MLS think you can't counter it because they wrote it on the MLS, but you can. And if they want to sell it, you say, well, nobody's going to go for 1%. So they did. They go, okay. So that was interesting.
Yeah, they're generally, I mean, they're pretty savvy. If the market's red hot for selling, they're just going to pay us a bare minimum. But if the market's not good, yeah, you might be able to dictate, hey, I want 4% on this one, or 3.5%. But just remember, that goes to your seller's net. So when they're doing the calculation in the back end, they're going to factor your costs in all of a sudden, right? Yeah, I mean, I actually had a builder tell me that. I found it really annoying. And they go, well, blah, 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 this is a number, this is a builder's number. Oh, and they got to pay you. And then I said, well, excuse me. But yeah, that is what it is, right? It is part of the formula. All right, any other questions? Let me see.
Yeah, I missed the beginning. How do you get in? Like there's some agents, like there was one in San Leandro, she follows the builder. So how do you get in on being the listing agent for a group? They usually are pretty cloistered.
Yeah, what I've noticed, I had a call recently from a new home construction asking me to interview for that. They ended up going with somebody more local. I think it's just the relationships. Do they know you? Are you easy to work with? And then you just got to build a relationship with them on that. So if you do know them, go in, talk to them, say, hey, if you ever need a listing agent for your developments, keep me in mind. And then that, yeah, for me, it was just because I happen to own a property before, and then I've worked well with their sales reps, and they've said good things about me. That's how they got my name. All right, everybody, we're about 3 minutes over. Any last questions? Otherwise, I'll leave you all to your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, everybody. All right, go sell some new home construction. Bye now.